what would be your views on the sort of the current in vogue treatments, such as, the Wegovy's and Ozempics and things like that? Is that something that you use in your practice, or is that something you don't find that you need, or is it still beneficial even on in this context?
Well, uh, um, so I teach a dietary approach. We
Yes.
studied it, published papers. It's reliable. It works. Have no doubt this will work. So that's
Mhm.
still what I like to lead with. If someone's never tried a prescription strength diet or medications, even pills and shots and surgery, I like to start with diet alone and just explain that if this clicks, that's all you need.
Mhm.
Most doctors don't understand that.
Yeah.
Most doctors now are following the pharma education and um, the effectiveness of these weight loss shots, and the marketing is just everywhere now. And so I have people coming in. A story recently, my primary care doctor 3 months ago said you need to go see Dr. Westman, but it's going to take 3 months. So here, why don't you get on this weight loss shot?
Mm.
So I had already lost 30 pounds. Of course, the doctor didn't say, watch your blood pressure. So she came in with a blood systolic of, 85 and was feeling dizzy and tired. And so, you got to watch out. So these are powerful medicines that the doctor needs to understand how they affect the other medications. I well, sometimes, so the other curious thing that's unusual is a third of people have significant nausea or stomach pain or diarrhea, even in the clinical trials. So a third of the people dropped out. Most drugs won't be taken to the market if it has that messy profile, but the market is so big, and for the two-thirds for whom it works without side effects, it's having benefits. So, but some people will come to me now on a shot thinking that's the only way you can lose, and have terrible nausea, and just so the doctors send out Zofran to treat the nausea of the medicine, and I try to explain, well, hey, wait, I can teach this with a diet, and you don't even need these shots. But if someone gets on that and the other doctor didn't mention the diet, they think that's the only way it's going to work. So I'm a past president of a group of doctors that use these medicines a lot, and they use it safely with the teaching of diet with the medicine. Not all doctors are doing that. And there is a concern of the muscle mass loss if you're not supporting the protein that you're not taking in, and you're going to lose some muscle mass. So I guess the long story, there are healthier ways to lose weight than to use one of the shots. For some people, it's a godsend because it's simple. They've honed down the delivery system that even I could do it. Even a doctor could inject, which I'm not a surgeon. Sorry, so you wouldn't understand that one. But I think there's going to be kind of on balance in general that will be more good than harm. But I think you could do it even more elegantly by just changing the food and doing a carnivore diet, and you're not subsequently getting the side effects and having to find. We're in an awkward moment where the range of cost could be from $3 a month to $1,000 a month for an individual if the insurance isn't covering it. And some people are paying $500 out of pocket per month for these because they think there's no other alternative. I go to the weight loss meetings with other doctors who use this, called the Obesity Medicine Association, and the concern, or what I observe, and it's just, I guess, an evolution of the field. The medicines have now influenced the meetings so that as you might expect, that now the booths are big and the doctors get free meals at the dinners, and it's like Midas has come through with the gold touch to make the doctor meetings nicer and better. And of course, that's going to make these doctors prescribe medicines more. But I think there's going to be more good than harm. Although I have concerns, I think you want to use one of these medicines with someone trained in obesity medicine, not just the family doc saying, here, take it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I would agree, and especially with the the dietary advice as well, because I think that's such a big part that's missing from, using these weight loss drugs or even the weight loss surgeries. I know people who have gotten these surgeries done. I've had patients that have gotten these surgeries done or have been on the Ozempics, etc. No one talks to them about proper diet and lifestyle. In fact, I had one person I know had this weight loss surgery, and they formed a stricture, and so it was a very narrow opening from their stomach to their small intestine, and they um, couldn't really eat much of anything. And so the dietary advice was you just need to drink a lot of soda and ice cream and just get as many carbs and sugar as you can because you need at least 1,200 calories. And it's like, where are the nutrients? Why?
Yeah.
And so you're telling these people to, it doesn't, the calories are the only thing that matter. Nutrients, can take a wash. And they were getting quite serious nutritional deficiencies and getting hair loss and other sorts of serious issues. And when you do that, you're forcing them to limit the amount that they're eating, and the Wegovy and the Ozempic can cause gastroparesis and force the same issue. But you're not teaching them what to eat, and so they have this. They sort of get worse habits as a result of that. They're just forced to eat less, but they're eating the same bad things or even worse things. It's just they're forced to eat less of it. And I think at the end of that, when you come off the Ozempic or the Wegovy, or you start stretching out your stomach again after a gastric sleeve, you have these very bad eating habits, and then that's typically why people regain this weight and they lose muscle mass, they lose lean body mass, and then they regain all of this adipose tissue and this fat. And I think that's likely why. I mean, I think if you're going to do a surgery or an Ozempic, that you have to do it in conjunction with a healthy lifestyle and diet. Otherwise, what's the point?
Well, you're spot on, and unfortunately, that's not the norm.
Mm.
So if you have weight loss surgery, you like at the Roux-en-Y gastric bypass, you don't have to really say anything about food. I mean,
Mm.
people will lose 180, 200 pounds over the next 2 years pretty reliably. And so from the surgeon's standpoint, I could understand, well, it's not a surgical problem anymore,
Mm.
right? But then when the weight loss stops, generally the surgeons don't want to hear from the patient because
Mm.
they want to operate, and some will, some won't. And so we want people who have had weight loss surgery to come to obesity medicine doctors. Where we will welcome you with open arms and teach you how to maintain and even lose more weight. I mean, it's
Mm.
very unusual for someone with weight loss surgery to achieve their high school weight. I mean, no one's taught them how to do that. And we see that not uncommonly teaching lifestyle because it'll continue to go down. But yeah, so that's the same concern with very low calorie diet programs, the bar and shake programs, the weight loss medicines, that if no one teaches you how to sustain it, it's just going to come back. And of course, it plays into the drug companies' hands where, well, we'll just keep you on it forever. And they've already kind of anticipated this with clinical trials that show, well, if you randomize then people to placebo or the real thing out here, people regain the weight. So we'll just keep them. Well, but you didn't teach them how to eat. So why not teach people how to eat up here? They'll lose the weight using the food-based diet program, and then they'll also maintain it. But it's kind of like the Wild West out there still, cowboys, and you can say without recourse that surgery is the only thing that works. I see that, and it's not true. But if it's kind of like car salesman. My car is the best. Well, there are a lot of cars that work, a lot of programs that work. In my area, there are half a dozen different programs that work and different styles, but you want to be in one that will help you not only lose the weight, but also sustain the weight loss. And I don't see the pharma companies stepping up to help educate about diet, which, is it their job? Yeah, I think so. But others don't.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's yeah, I mean, I guess from their business perspective, they're more than happy with people being obese and eating garbage because then they get to sell more of their products. But of course, that I mean, that's and that can be their incentive, and we just need to understand that there it's not this altruistic charity that they're just really hoping against hope to just better humanity. It's a business model, and that's fine. We just need to recognize it for what it is, and if we want a cure, if we want a long-term solution, and just a solution in general, we can't really rely on them to do that.
That reminds me of, have you seen this new movie called First Do No Farm, Pharm?
Oh, no,
It's
I haven't seen it yet. No. Yeah.
Donald O'Neill, who did Serial
Mm,
Killers 2, features Asim Malhotra.
mm,
Asim is a cardiologist in the UK who got in hot water questioning statins use.
mm,
But in that movie, which I highly recommend, they interview Fiona Godley, who's the past editor of the British Medical Journal. And she kind of tells a story about the statin drug companies and the industry and how they've asked the companies to open their data, to be
mm,
transparent about how good the drugs are, and they won't.
mm,
And so it makes me, and she said, they always did clinical trials to just show that their drug works better than placebo, right? They
mm,
didn't ever include a lifestyle arm or any other sort of thing. And that's what we're going to see with drug company studies today. They're just trying to prove that their drug works beyond placebo without regard to, let's say, a different lifestyle approach or something. And yet what Fiona Dutch Godley said in that video or the film is they could have done that. I mean, how many gazillion dollars have been spent on these placebo-controlled studies when they could have added in something very simply for the greater good of of the rest of us. I don't
yeah.
know. But that's not the company agenda. It's to get the approval of a drug. Now, that's a great plug for doing post-marketing studies, where now that drugs are out there, what we do is we compare a carnivore keto-ish study to these other medicines. And I've seen people do that in figures, with not in a prospective randomized way, but the results we get from diet alone are comparable, even without the side effects and the expense.
Yeah. And more beneficial side effects as well, some other pleiotropic effects that add further benefit as well. And certainly a lot of these benefits have been already shown in ketogenic diets already. It's just a matter of getting it out to the clinicians to start actually putting it into practice. We've come across this information, but it was certainly not spoon-fed to me in medical school or elsewhere. I came across this because I was investigating is under coming to the realization that I did a lot better on a carnivore diet. Humans biologically, that's been our evolutionary past. Okay, that makes sense to me, but do we have any data on this? What do we know? What can we prove? And that's when I started really digging into the literature, asking questions and trying to answer them by looking into the literature. And I came across a whole ketogenic body of information, which thousands and thousands and thousands of studies. And that made sense to me. It's like, well, this is a ketogenic diet. Typically, you get rid of carbohydrates, you replace it with protein and fat. That often comes from meat. And so a lot of these studies are looking at a high-fat, meat-based ketogenic diet approach. And so that makes sense. And so I found that. And that made a lot of sense to me. There's a lot of very good evidence showing and supporting the use of these dietary interventions in clinical practice and just in everyday life. But what I come to realize is that because there's no product behind it. It's not like there's a pharmaceutical drug or big keto or something like that. It's not gonna get lobbied at medical schools to be taught or in residency programs, or they're not gonna be sponsoring major conferences that are gonna draw a lot of people, and they're not gonna have drug reps coming in every Tuesday and catering a lunch, ketogenic lunch, buying everybody steaks or anything like that, because there's no marketing budget because there's no product line, and that's the thing. We have to go find this ourselves. I had a colleague of mine who I remember we were coming into like a Tuesday meeting. It was being catered by a drug rep, and she just got really excited. She's like, "Oh, I love Tuesdays." And I was like, "Oh, like free lunch?" And she said, "No, it's like I just get to learn new research. I always love it. They're presenting new research and new studies." And I was like, this isn't like the research wing of the hospital coming in to tell us what they've discovered. Like this is a sales rep. This is just they're
Right,
telling us the studies that fit their purpose to try to make us use their drug. You know,
right,
but we think about it like that. Our continuing education, it comes from these reps that come to us and going to conferences, and we're just being spoon fed. But it's not going to happen with this sort of intervention. We have to go find it. And so which is why I want to try to spread this out to as many clinicians as possible so they can start looking into this for themselves. The information is there, the evidence is clearly there. It just needs to be picked up. And I'm still trying to figure out a way of like how do we actually get this into those Tuesday meetings, and
right.
get this dispersed out to more people. I don't know if you had thoughts on that. Hey guys, just want to take a second to thank our sponsor at Carnivore Bar. I don't promote many products because honestly, all you need to be healthy is to just eat meat. For those times that you're out hiking, road tripping, or stuck at work and you want a nutritious snack that is just meat, fat, and salt if you want it, the Carnivore Bar is a great option. So I like this product not because it's just pure meat, but also because I want the carnivore market to thrive as well. And the more we support meat-only products, the more meat-only products there will be available in the mainstream. So if this sounds like something you'd like to get behind, check it out using my discount code Anthony to get 10% off, which also applies to subscriptions, giving you 25% off total. All right, thanks guys.
Well, I have a couple of thoughts, and on my way to that direct question, in that movie, First Do No Farm, Dr. Malhotra visits, he goes around the world and he visits Cape Town, South Africa, where Nelson Mandela and Gandhi had been, and he talks to one of the leaders there, and he says, well, first if you're going to make a revolution, is you take over the education.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is a time-honored
Mm-hmm.
way to do things, right? And so basically, pharma has taken over the education of medical
Mm-hmm.
schools.
Yeah.
It's pretty clear. The other thought, though, I had was I did meet a very driven individual in Indonesia. And Tio Prasetyo is the father of someone with cerebral palsy, a child who was told he would never walk and talk, and he sleuthed out, well, what do the children need in the brain? And they said, well, myelin. And he said, well, how do they make myelin? Tio, being an engineer, said, well, we can fix this.
Mm-hmm.
And well, it takes ketones and cholesterol. And he said, well, let's give it to him. So basically, Tio has gone around Indonesia himself and lobbied doctors, teaching them biochemistry. So thinking that individuals can do this, but I mean, this is a heroic, only one of the certain times when there's this heroic power or feeling of energy is when your child is affected by something and you found something that fixes them. So he's felt compelled to teach all through Indonesia, put on a conference in Jakarta, and I got to go to that meeting. And the Facebook group they have is called Ketofastosis Indonesia. And the overlap there with a mainly Muslim country is they're very comfortable with fasting. It's something they learn through their culture and religion. And so one person could, so we could develop an army of volunteers,
Mm-hmm.
people, they've retired from their first career, they are now, 70, and they have all this energy now because they fixed their medical issues. Well, let's put them in an army to teach.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be a pharma company, or there doesn't have to be a lot of money involved to do this. But that's Tio's experience, which it was pretty amazing to hear.
Yeah, that'd be great if we get some people around to go and spread this around. I would volunteer if we could get that going.
But you have to bring
Yeah.
food, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the doctors are
Yeah.
accustomed to
Yeah.
being fed. Uh, Unfortunately, in my area, it's the fancy steakhouse.
Mhm.
But if you have leave behinds at the office, I mean, I'd love to have that yellow book edited by Nutrition Network and Prof Noakes, the ketogenic textbook. I'd love to have that sent to
Yeah.
department chairs or doctors locally, or certainly if you want to influence your doctor, give them a present at the office, have it be that yellow textbook, although it is, $100 or something.
Mhm.
So, but educating, that I guess that's my still belief that this can be solved. But solving something is the answer for having things change. So when we can fix things that the medical establishment can't, that's when people will gravitate toward this. Is
Yeah.
that we just have to make the awareness be that you don't have to have type 2 diabetes. You don't have to be on those medicines. And I think the showing that we can do that and they can't is
Mhm.
going to be how this area wins.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just to wrap up, I'm conscious of your time, but I did want to ask you one thing because it's something that comes up all the time. People go onto a ketogenic diet, and all these things are getting better. Their diabetes is getting better. Their metabolic markers are getting better. Their blood pressure coming down. They're coming off medications, but then their doctor checks their LDL and goes, "Oh my goodness, you have hypercholesterolemia. You're gonna die. This is gonna kill you." Um, and people get very worried about that. Coming from, professor of medicine at Duke, what would be your response to that?
Yeah, so take a deep breath. Tell your doctor to take a deep breath. And what you want to do is learn about a syndrome called metabolic syndrome. So the old way to look at a cholesterol panel is to focus on the total and LDL cholesterol. The new way is to look at the triglyceride and HDL cholesterol. So I'll just pull up those four labs over time and cover two of them the old way. Oh, it looks worse. And then cover the other two the new way. Oh, it all looks better. So you have to have the ability to just insert the knowledge about the new way to look at the cholesterol panel, and then most people will follow. Although in my clinic, if someone's doing a low carb, keto, carnivore approach for a decade or longer, which they have, I don't focus so much on the cholesterol anymore, and I'm going more directly to measuring the arteries themselves.
Mm.
So in our area, we can get ultrasounds of the arteries at low cost, but people have to pay for it. We can get coronary artery calcium scores and CT angiograms. They're a little more expensive, but the testing for these diseases is the way to go, because I've seen people with no arterial disease at all be put on a medicine for a cholesterol level. So I teach my people in my tribe to repeat after me: cholesterol is not a disease. Cholesterol is not a disease. Atherosclerosis is the disease that you don't want to get, and that's what we're treating with treating cholesterol. So if you don't have atherosclerosis, especially if you live to the age of 70 and you don't have atherosclerosis, there's no reason to be on a medicine to treat a condition that you don't have. And yet the medical mainstream it doesn't compute. They'll still, well, but you might later. And no, you wouldn't give chemotherapy to somebody for cancer
Mm.
on the odds that they have cancer. That's basically what's happening with the cholesterol treatments now. odds are you have it, so we'll treat you. Well, we can personalize things better than that. And so it just takes a little education. And of course, get a second opinion is the other way to say it, or say, doctor, thank you so much for your concern. I'm going to talk to my other doctor about it, and I'll be back. And I've heard stories of doctors firing their patients. Well, if you won't take it, then get out. Well, they must be on some kind of quota to
Yeah.
have a percentage of their folks on
Mm.
I just can't see that as a rational way to do things. But most of the time, people are not asked to look at the arterial system. They are just told to be on a drug because of a cholesterol level, and we can do better than that.
Yeah. And so you've been doing this for quite some time. So like you said, you'd have patients that are, upwards of a decade on these diets that could have so-called high
Two
cholesterol, which I
decades.
would just think it's
Yeah.
normal. That's just what your body's trying to do. If you fast for 5 days, your LDL is going to go up too. Your body's trying to do that anyway. Um, and is that what you're finding, that people, when you actually look at their vasculature, are they free of disease with long-term ketogenic diets?
Well, that's a study I've never done.
Okay.
And it may be time now to kind of roll out the people in my clinic panel. You
Hmm.
know, uh, I've been more following the LMHR study that Dave
Hmm.
Feldman, cholesterol code, looking at, say, 100 people in a controlled study like he
Hmm.
had. Uh, but I'm now finally getting the, I don't know, reputation, or in a good way, so that a medical student this last year reviewed the charts of our patients. That's the other thing. We're trying to find money for research. You can get unpaid students to do
Hmm.
this
Yeah.
as part of their learning experience. But he assembled all of the people we've been treating for heart failure, and kind of in a strange twist of drugs working through ketosis. Now the cardiology world is waking up to the idea
Mm.
that ketones might help heart failure.
Yeah.
So so he said, well, this is it. He put together 150 people that we had with some sort of heart failure, and
Wow.
no, there weren't miraculous changes, but the idea is that it was tolerable, and people lost weight, and that whole story about the SGLT2 inhibitors, which cause glucose in the urine and also ketosis. I think it's pretty established now that it helps heart failure through ketosis.
Mm.
And now it's a matter of percolating through to the cardiologist that you can actually achieve ketosis
Mm.
without that medicine. It's called keto.
Yeah.
It's called carnivore. But
Yeah.
no, I mean most of them are still in this kind of barrier of, you can't cross the high fat, diet, that they're still stuck in that old way of thinking. It's just too
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, thankfully some are coming around in the low carb sort of groups. There's one in Australia that I in my area. I just met him recently, and he's all for ketogenic, meat-based, high-fat approaches for his cardiology patients. And he made that same point about heart failure medication and ketones, and he's very interested in applying ketogenic diets to heart failure patients. And so it may be that we might be able to get a small clinical trial going on that to see
Yes.
that. And yeah, I've seen the same thing. Anecdotally, I've had several patients actually that have had actually quite severe heart failure, congestive heart failure, some ischemic actually, which is very interesting because if you have a heart attack, you have this dead wall of your heart that's probably not going to come back to life. But it seems that the rest of the heart works better, and that there is some improvement, going up from 15, 20% ejection fraction to 33% ejection fraction in one case. So that, I mean, that's going to make a big difference in that person's life. And
Yeah,
other,
and
yeah,
I've seen 20 to 50,
yeah,
20%,
yeah,
50%. And of course, there was a 140-pound weight loss along
yeah,
at the
along
same
the
time,
road.
but that's okay too. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the other thing. As I presented this years ago, people were like, well, you're doing too much. We
Mm,
don't know know what the mechanism is. And but so the diabetes is gone and the weight's down. What's wrong with that? No,
Yeah.
but it and the weight loss be. I never was so much a stickler on the mechanism. I'm more of an outcomes kind of person. And
Yeah.
in a recent study of the heart function and heart fuel utilization, the muscle itself runs on fatty acids and ketones. And but in that paper, in the abstract, they wrote,
Mhm.
we were surprised that very little glucose was used. And don't write that in a paper. I mean, it basically shows your ignorance that the heart knew it all along.
Mhm.
The heart knows that so anyway, I
Yeah.
think they were just trying to emphasize the shock that yeah, the heart does great
Yeah.
with fat.
Hey everyone, really happy to announce a new sponsor for the show and for everybody down in Australia, Stockman Steaks, who are delivering high quality grass-fed and finished pasture-raised beef and other meats, flash frozen and vacuum sealed to your door, something that I've been enjoying a lot of myself recently as well. They also have a great range of specialty items such as high-fat keto mince and carnivore beef and organs mince with liver, kidneys, and beef heart as well. So use code Chaffee today for a free order of beef mince or another specialty gift along with your order at stockmansteaks.com.au, and I'll see you over there. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I've seen studies saying that just being in ketosis and running on ketones can improve injection fraction by 30% or so, just the ketones. And in that case, the lady went up 15 or so points, 15, 20 points. That was with an ischemic case. I mean, she had had a massive heart attack and had heart failure as a result of that. And then other non-ischemic cases, I've seen even more dramatic improvements where one gentleman went from 14% ejection fraction to completely normal cardiac function in, I think it was just less than 6 months. Very strict, but it was massive, massive improvements.
There's kind of a strange irony or deliciousness in the fact that the very diet that was thought to be the most harmful is the
Yeah,
best.
yeah.
There's so many things that, like the food pyramid needs to be turned totally upside down, and then it's the best.
Yeah, yeah, it is funny. Yeah, it's a bit of sweet irony. That's yeah, they got it so
Unfortunately, a
wrong.
lot of collateral damage along the way. But
Unfortunately, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Well, Professor Westman, thank you so much for your time. I could talk to you all day, but I don't want to monopolize your time. I really appreciate you taking the time to come out and speak with us. Please let us know where we can follow you and find more of you and support your work and find your books.
well, and thanks for having me. I really love what you're doing. Well, I have an important announcement for those who have pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes. I have a free live webinar coming up on February 10th.
Great.
And about the labs. It's live. I go over the A1C, the glucose, but also triglyceride, HDL, and how low carb, carnivore, keto can reverse type 2 diabetes. And so that's a free live seminar on labs for diabetes on February 10th. And you can learn about that at my website, adaptyourlifeacademy.com. You just sign up for the free live seminar there, and we'll get you in touch. But it's exciting to teach this to people, and more people are interested, which is fantastic.
Perfect. Well, I'll make sure all those links go up, and I will try to get this up in the next week or so we can get it before that conference, so we can help publicize that. Great.
Fantastic.
Professor Westman, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Take care.
Take care.
The food very low in the carbs, blood sugar is going to come down, and it will help with diabetes for sure. But so diabetes, obesity, heartburn, irritable bowel syndrome, PCOS, arthritis pains, all of these things reliably will improve.
Yeah.